Hello and welcome to the Daily Draft, where we take Magic one draft at a time. My name is Morgan, and this is a Battle for Zendikar Pack for Win Swiss draft. Alright, pack one, pick one. Let's see what we get. Sweet. I like Emiria Shepherd a lot. It's definitely the most powerful card in the pack. Emiria Shepherd, for those of you who don't know, it's a 4/4 flyer for 7, and for that, you get to return a non-land permanent card from your graveyard to your hand whenever a land enters the battlefield, and if that land is a plains, then you get to put it straight onto the battlefield. Pretty sweet. Tajuru Warcaller is pretty strong in the ally strategy, not so much anywhere else. Breaker of Armies is, well, Tajuru Warcaller is also an overrun on a stick, but it doesn't give trample, so it's significantly worse than that. But it does come with a 2/1 body, so however much you value that. Breaker of Armies is fairly strong. It's a 10/8 for 8, and there are some ways to ramp it out in this format. But definitely just taking the Emiria Shepherd and kind of hoping that we get there. Couple of options here. There's a Shadow Glider, a Core Blade Whirl, Cinder Glade. Not really interested in the Cinder Glade, although it's worth like a ticket. Outnumber is a fine removal spell. Titan's Presence also a good removal spell, but not particularly in the white deck because white doesn't actually have any devoid cards. Here we're looking at Core Blade Whirl or Shadow Glider, and I think I'd rather have the Shadow Glider. Core Blade Whirl is cheaper and more efficient, but having flyers is pretty important. And when it comes to 2-drops, the Emiria Shepherd deck can also have things like Stonehaven Medic and even Fortified Rampart and still be fine. So we're going to go ahead and take the Shadow Glider. Ooh, alright. So pretty happy grabbing this Stasis Snare, passing another Core Blade Whirl to whoever's taking the Tajuru Warcaller, which is fine. Makindi Patrol is another fine card. Cloud Manta is great as a flyer in the Skies deck, because Cloud Manta on its own isn't very efficient. It's slightly more efficient than the white flyers, true, but on its own it's not very good. But when you're also applying pressure with other flyers, it's very good. So something worth considering. Stasis Snare, however, is great. It also gives something for your rune processors to process, because you can use the card that's exiled with Stasis Snare and for the process. Wow, a couple of good black cards here. Zulaport Cutthroat is great when you're producing a lot of Eldrazi Scions. Complete Disregard is just a very efficient removal spell on the level of Stasis Snare, so we're going to go ahead and take it. Rune Processor is a card that I like a lot. The gaining 5 life is very significant, and in this deck it looks like we're going to get a couple of ways to get things in the exile zone, but I can't pass Complete Disregard. Again, it's super efficient, which is why it's great. Here, we're going to go ahead and take the Evolving Wilds. Tajuru Beastmaster is a card that I consider to be better than Tajuru Warcaller in that when you play it onto an empty board, it is a 5/5 for 6 rather than a 2/1 for 5. So, pretty good. Evolving Wilds goes really well with Emiria Shepherd. I do like Silent Skimmer a lot. I've come to be very impressed with the card. When it provides a lot of blocking ability in the air, as a lot of the time you get 2 or 3 X's for flyers, so it can block pretty efficiently. And it gets in for 2 damage, which is not insignificant, but Evolving Wilds is just the best card in the pack. Here there's another Evolving Wilds. There's also a Sludge Crawler, which I like quite a bit. Sludge Crawler is a fantastic 1-drop in the format because it gets bigger. It isn't always a 1/1, which is pretty important in a format where you run 7-drops on a regular basis, for example. I could consider taking the second Evolving Wilds, but I think I'm just going to go ahead and take the Sludge Crawler and cut black. Dampening Pulse is a pretty sweet card for the control decks. Creatures your opponents control get -1/-0 is a fairly strong effect in a format where a lot of the creatures that your opponents might be playing are 1 power. Is it better than a Silent Skimmer? I don't think so. I'd rather have the Silent Skimmer. Here, pretty easily taking the Ghostly Sentinel over the Catacomb Sifter and the Foil Basic. Ghostly Sentinel is, again, very good in the Skies decks in that it is a great threat when your opponents are trying to deal with all of your flyers. It's also a 3/3, which is not a small body in this format, I think. I'm going to go ahead and take a Felidar Cub here. Well, I'm not super excited about it, but it's fine. I guess I can grab the Titan's Presence. Titan's Presence is actually a fine removal spell if I manage to pick up a Rune Processor or something like that. Grave Birthing is fine, it cycles. Take this Sure Strike and put it in the sideboard. To Drew Beastmaster Wield. So, green might be open. Like, this card is great in the green decks. It's just huge. If you look at my creatures, none of them are able to block this card. With the exception of Sludge Crawler after about 12 mana. 10 mana. Evolving Wilds is also pretty sweet with Emiria Shepherd. I might have mentioned this because you get 2 landfall triggers off of it. Radiant Flames is actually pretty sweet in this format, especially if you can get it up to 3. Even at 2, it's fairly good. I'm just going to go ahead and take another Complete Disregard, though. I like having a lot of removal spells in decks like this. There's a Gideon's Reproach I could consider taking. There's also a Sheer Drop. I want this Encircling Fissure, though. Prevent all combat damage that would be dealt this turn by creatures and target opponent controls, and you get a 2/2 for 5 mana, or 6 mana because you want the 2/2 to be untapped usually. You could also take Sheer Drop, but I've got a couple of just removal spells, and so I'm going to go ahead and take Encircling Fissure for the blowout value. Here, I'm pretty happy taking a Royal's Retribution over Evolving Wilds and Spawning Bed. One of the nice things about picking up Evolving Wilds fairly early is I feel a lot less pressure to pick it up now, and I can take the Royal's Retribution, which deals 5 damage divided as I choose among any number of target attacking or blocking creatures. It's a very flexible removal spell. Do I take another Royal's Retribution? I think so. I'm fine taking it over a Colostria Nightwatch and an Eldrazi Devastator. Like, apparently, if this deck survives to 5 mana, I'm not dying to any creatures. Let's see. There's a Mindraker, which does make use of Complete Disregard and Stasis Snared creatures. There's a Blighted Step, which I think I'd rather have the Mindraker. It is a 3/3 for 4, which is fine efficiency-wise. So, and I can feel a little bit more comfortable playing Titan's Presence. Still a little iffy on it, because I only have 1 card to play with it. There's not a lot. I guess I take the Fortified Rampart. I don't really feel like hate drafting any of these. If I did, it would probably be Herald of Kozilek or Spell Shrivel, but Fortified Rampart is playable in this deck. It's not great. I came down a little bit from how high I was on the Fortified Rampart before, but it's still fine. This is a very late Vile Aggregate, and considering Sandstone Bridge has some negative interaction with Emiria Shepherd, I'm going to go ahead and take it. I love Vile Aggregate so much. It's not great in the white decks, again, because for the same reason that Titan's Presence isn't, you just don't get a lot of colorless spells. But Vile Aggregate could get annoying, so we're fine hate drafting that card. Especially in that pack, which was just such a nothing pack. Usually you want the Sandstone Bridges in decks with things like Core Castigators, where you can just play Core Castigator and then Sandstone Bridge it, attack for 4, and play another Core Castigator. Not the Felidar Cub deck. This is just so much removal. Holy Homina. I like it a lot. I'm very pleased. Here, I could see taking Stone Fury over Ondu Greathorn. Ondu Greathorn is a fine card when all is said and done, because offensively it's a 4/5, and defensively it blocks a lot of allies. I do like the idea of hedging and taking a Stone Fury, though. it's a pretty good removal spell in this format. Deals at least 5 damage typically to target creature, because you'll generally have about 5 lands on the battlefield when you cast it. And I feel like I am more likely to be able to pick up an Ondu Greathorn later. Sandstone Bridge has like positive interactions with Ondu Greathorn, by the way. Do I want a second Mindraker or a Scour from Existence? I'll take a second Mindraker. I don't mind going up the board with derpy 3/3s, especially since I have so many ways to get cards into the exile zone on turn 3. Mindraker has a lot more value. And I actually suspected that I was going to wheel the Sheer Drop. It sounds really weird, but sometimes Sheer Drop just goes late if white is open enough, and we did get past a lot of good white this pack. A lot of white that I'd consider good, anyway. So here I'm just going to take a Bone Splinters. It's not great, but it does get better when knowing that we have a Myria Shepherd. So, I'm fine taking an Eldrazi Devastator here for the same reason I was fine taking the Mindrakers. They're a little bit subpar for what they are compared to other creatures like Rune Processor. However, they're fine in a deck where when all is said and done, you just want a way to back up all of your efficient removal, which we have quite a bit of now, which is fantastic, by the way. So we have 10 creatures and 10 removal spells, basically. Here, I can see taking Pilgrim's Eye. I'm going to take the Malakir Familiar, though. Malakir Familiar, just a 2/1 Death Touch. It's basically a flying removal spell. Things I wouldn't be unhappy with, Ghostly Sentinel or Mire's Malice. Gruesome Slaughter is a pretty sweet card in the green Devoid decks, actually, because you just have so many creatures, but we're fine taking a Malakir Familiar. Still not clear on this Titan's Presence. We now have 3 things to reveal to it, and it's probably just worse than Complete Disregard. Okay, wow. So Guardian of Tazim is a very good card, and so is Coastal Discovery. Like, what? We could hate draft the Guardian of Tazim, but I think I'm just going to take the Coastal Discovery because we have this Evolving Wilds, and we can splash it. Oh man, Grip of Desolation. Sweet. Grip of Desolation is another fantastic removal spell. Exile target creature and target land. Let's see. I could take Shadow Glider, but I already have a bunch of 3-drops. I'm going to go ahead and take a Courier Griffin. Courier Griffin is a pretty sweet flyer. I think I'd rather have that than the Colostria Nightwatch. The entering the battlefield to gain 2 life is not insignificant either. So I'm not going to play this Fortified Rampart. I'm very happy to pick up a Rune Processor, though. That means I can replace my Eldrazi Devastator. And we have so much stuff. I'm not going to play the Titan's Presence as of right now, either. I could see not playing the Grave Birthing, but I kind of like it. I would rather not play the Bone Splinters, is one thing I have. I don't really... apart from the Grave Birthing, I really don't have a lot of throwaway creatures in this deck. So... well, we'll keep Fortified Rampart in there for now. It's probably better than Bone Splinters. I will definitely take a Felidar Cub over a Geyser Field Stalker. That's for sure. And I'll definitely play it over Fortified Rampart. I'm going to happily take a Scour from Existence for the sideboard. Don't really want any of these, so I'll just take the rare. Our deck's sweet. We wield the Ghostly Sentinel, which is great. I don't know if we play it or not. I could cut a Mindbreaker. Yeah, I could cut a Mindbreaker. So, for removal, not an insignificant amount of removal. So we got Stasis Snare, Complete Disregard, Complete Disregard. Yeah, the card's annoying. We got Royal's Retribution, Royal's Retribution. The thing about playing Encircling Fissure is you pretty much have to have creatures to back it up with, but we managed to do that, so that's pretty nice. Just casual 7 pieces of removal plus a couple tricks. That's pretty good. Also, counts as a creature, because generally we're not going to be casting Sheer Drop for 3 unless we're under a lot of pressure. I will take a Dutiful Return. If my opponent has a lot of removal, I could see playing that. I'm going to play a Stonehaven Medic over one of these Felidar Cubs. I'm going to take this Plummet, and I guess Seek the Wilds, it's fine. Look at how nice the people in my pod are, just passing me islands. Let's see. I could see taking, or playing Shrine of the Forsaken Gods. I mean, cast a bunch of our spells, but I don't think that's actually what it's meant to do. So, deck's sweet. I'm pretty excited about it. It's a black-white control deck, which you don't see a lot of. I consider it to be a control deck because we're playing a bunch of, just a crap ton of removal and playing towards the Emiria Shepherd endgame. And the Emiria Shepherd's mostly for value. But yeah, deck sweet. We're gonna add 1 island. Yeah, that seems fine. Don't really want to play more than 1. I don't, and I think 9 and 7 is a good number for Plains and Swamps, so we already added Basic Lands, never mind. So we're going to submit this, and I'll see you in round 1.